Happy Memorial Day weekend, and welcome to a new episode of Last Call Baseball, number 153. I'm Dorian. You may be enjoying the Memorial Day weekend, but are Atlanta Braves fans happy? This team's in second place in the National League East. They have one of the best records in the National League, but it doesn't feel like it. Everyone is struggling. If Marcell Ozuna wasn't on this team, where would this offense be? The Braves had that crazy record-setting 2023 offense, and no one in their right mind said the Braves are going to do the same thing in 2024. They're going to repeat exactly what they did last year. No, of course not. Again, most of us are rational people. But to fall this far off from the 2023 production, this team lost Spencer Strider, who was the National League Cy Young favorite. I think he lasted, one or two starts? Tommy John, third baseman all-star Austin Riley, and MVP candidate. He has some kind of oblique or rib strain that he's been out now for, I think, over a week or two. Their starting catcher, Sean Murphy. He had one at-bat this season. He's been on the injured list with an oblique injury, and he's just about to come back. Their other starting catcher, Travis d'Arnaud, he's been hit in the face 3 times in the last month with foul balls and a bat. Travis d'Arnaud, I think, has had 3 or 4 concussions in his whole career. It's let's hope he doesn't have any more of these foul balls or getting hit on the head so frequently. And in the pitching of the Braves, Tyler Matzek, who came back from Tommy John surgery, he's now on the injured list with left elbow, let's say, rest issues. I forget what they actually called it. And then the starting pitchers, Pablo Lopez has been awesome. You know who else has? Chris Sale. Awesome. Freaking strikeout machine. I had zero expectations for Chris Sale and even less for Pablo Lopez. And these guys have been phenomenal. But none of these guys, Lopez or Sale, has pitched more than 102 innings in the past 4 seasons. And they're both already pushing up against, I think, 60 innings already. God, again, like Travis d'Arnaud, please hold up for another 100+ innings in addition, potentially, the playoffs. So I've just listed a couple of things here. This team, surprisingly, has one of the best records in the National League and is in second place behind the Philadelphia Phillies. They've only hit 55 home runs as a team, which is 15th in the league, in all of Major League Baseball, right smack in the middle. Potential injuries, very pedestrian offense for the amount of firepower and stars that this team has. The sky is falling. Oh, and then yesterday we got the great news that the 2023 National League MVP, Ronald Acuna Jr., tore the ACL in his left knee. In 2021, he tore the ACL in his right knee. It's surprising that the Atlanta Braves are in second place in the National League East Division with one of the best records in the entire National League. I think I'm going to have to go on YouTube and look up old blues songs that has something along the lines of "We Shall Find a Way" to October, because this is sad and it's scratching your head. What more can go wrong? We're only 7 weeks into the season. There's still, as you know, 305 games to go for every team. I'm joking, of course. As an Atlanta Braves fan, I trust Brian Snitker, the manager. I trust Alex Anthopoulos. He's not even the general manager anymore. He's the president of operations. The president of baseball operations. So that's even a higher title. But man, this really sucks. And I really am going to go on YouTube to look up old blues songs that could be applicable for the 2024 Atlanta Braves. Speaking of music and the blues, you know my latest obsession, college baseball. The SEC tournament, just a few days ago on Thursday, May 23rd, Texas A&M was playing Tennessee in the elimination game. So whoever lost that game, whether Tennessee or Texas A&M, they go home. The winner goes on and stays alive to fight another day. This isn't a recap highlight show. I'm just going to tell you, Tennessee won that game 7-4. They knocked out Texas A&M. But the real winner, the real reason I kept watching was the DJ in the stadium who was going absolutely wild with his music selections. I every time that they would play music in between, batters or a visitor mound or a commercial break, what have you, it reminded me as if someone were to say, "Hey, like here, man, give us your mixtape of all the songs that you like. Just plug it into the stadium speakers, and we're just gonna play that the whole game." This guy was playing songs by Pitbull, by Wham, the 1980s duo with that George Michael was a part of, like Latin songs that I couldn't even make out. Bill Squire. Those are only artists that I actually recognize. It was insane, and it sounded fun and like the most random shuffle of all of your music mixtapes or whatever streaming service you use. And this DJ at the SEC tournament, which was held in Hoover, Alabama, in my opinion, he's giving the Nicaraguan DJs run for his money. If you remember back in the fall, I always highlight there's this DJ from one of the baseball teams in the Nicaraguan Winter League for the team. What is it? Tigres de Chinandega, the Tigers of Chinandega, which is a town in northern Nicaragua, close to the border with Honduras. That DJ for the Tigers, the Tigres, he loves 90s dance music. And I always just crack up because I love watching that team, and I just love when they're playing at home because the DJ just goes, buck wild. But I need to find out. If anyone knows who the DJ was at the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama last week, drop me a line on Twitter, send me a message on Instagram, send smoke signals. I need to find out, and I need to see what the rest of his music selection is. Oh, and by the way, Tennessee and the number 1 seed Tennessee Volunteers ended up winning the SEC tournament. So maybe they were inspired by Mr. 305, Pitbull, Wham, who knows? Congratulations to the Volunteers for winning the SEC baseball tournament just yesterday, Sunday. And we're about to combine some of my favorite things in life: college baseball, professional baseball, and art. This week, we're joined by our special guest, Richard Sullivan, a Louisville-based artist and former Atlanta Braves minor league player. Richard, welcome to Last Call Baseball.
Great to be here, Dorian. Thank you.
You're a professional athlete, and I want to quote another athlete, the great Jerry Rice, the former all-galaxy wide receiver from the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to paraphrase something that always stuck with me. He said something along the lines of, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. When you were playing in the minor leagues, what kind of environment did you like to make sure that you could actually perform at the highest level? And now as an artist, what kind of environment do you try to produce all of your work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I definitely think in the minor leagues, it wasn't the big leagues. So you really didn't have a lot of control over your environment, what you ate, where you live. So you could control how you looked, how you dressed. So I definitely like to present myself well, and we always had to shave. And back then, honestly, Dorian, I wasn't that concerned about, I was just trying to focus on how to be a better athlete and get to that's a great Jerry. I'm sure that's 20 years of evolution in an athlete's mantra, because when you get to the big leagues and when you're in front of all the cameras and all that stuff, it boosts your confidence. I guess my confidence was rooted in how hard I worked, and instead of what I looked like. And to answer your question about the art, I love my studio space. I always need really good lighting and just kind of a calm zen place where I can be, kind of think creatively and not have too many distractions. So I try to keep it clean. And the neighborhood I live in now is the west end of Louisville, and it's kind of like this neglected part of town where I bought a building pretty cheap, and I didn't realize how chaotic it was around. So for my studio space, it's zen, but my surroundings are kind of chaotic sometimes. So
you're not playing any music or anything. You're more like a Buddhist monk. Okay. What kind of music do you like to put
in headphones, depending, if I'm needing to really focus, I'll play some binaural beats or something. But if I want to like go into the zone, I'll probably play some, whatever I'm listening to at the time.
I've checked out your artwork online, and I'm not saying because you're my guest, it's very impressive. And as much as I love, obviously, you have a lot of Atlanta Braves players, history, historical moments. You also do other Major League Baseball players or even moments, and I'll let you expand on that in a bit. But I am most impressed by the equine art, your
Oh,
art
thank
of
you.
horses
Yeah.
it blows it genuinely, it's unbelievable. Where in the world did your love of horses, because I think you love horses because the way it comes across, and I encourage everyone to go to see some of your work on
Yeah,
horse art.
I grew up in Kentucky. We're, home of the Kentucky Derby, home of a lot of the bluegrass, where like the Lexington area is home to like all these horse stables, all the thoroughbred where they breed them, they train them, So I think, and my mom was raised on a farm, my dad was raised on a farm. So even though I was like born in the city and kind of grew up in a pretty suburban area, like I was always around animals, like when we went to the farm and stuff like that. So I guess that seeped in. It's not like I didn't have horses. I didn't, ride horses until I was an adult. So I don't really know where like it came from at first, but now that I'm doing it, like I think horses are the most magnificent creatures in the world. If you've ever been around horses, like their energy is so calm, and you really have to like, you can't make any sudden movements. You have to really tap into their energy, and they're just so soft and gentle, but also they could kill you, in a matter of a second. So you have to be very aware of what you're doing and what they're doing. So, and as athletes, they're some of the most powerful, athletes in the world with equine racing. And I think I love capturing that moment when, athletes are competing. I think that translates to the horses when they're racing. So, and they're all like, they're pack animals too. So they're always trying to compete with the other horse, with the other jockeys. So there is a lot of subtle things that I've learned along the way. And I think, honestly, though, like I just love painting the muscular systems and like their faces. Like it just makes me happy to paint them. So
Yeah, there's obviously, as you said, they are just beautiful beings. But I love and respect horses so much that I stay far away from them, because you had said something about them, being calm, but also they can kill you. I remember I've only ever been on a horse once in my life. I'm sure you've been on a horse more times
a few
just on a
times, yeah.
weekend. I was through, and apparently it was like an old female horse, like it was
Mhm.
very calm and docile, and it threw me and my cousin, and it dragged us
Oh
for, I
no.
don't know, maybe 20, 50 yards.
Yeah, that's
I have
traumatizing.
never been on a horse,
I would, I get it. Yeah.
and you always read about like these old like 1950s or 60s like crime novels of the some lady obviously marries some guy for money, and then she has him walk through the stables, and the horse kicks him in the head and she gets all the money,
Oh,
because
right.
there was a famous case on that, I think in the 1960s in Miami and also in
That's
other places. But I'm like,
that's interesting. Huh.
I'll appreciate horses through the work of people like Richard Sullivan.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I am the funny story, like my girlfriend owns a horse. She rides it's a mare, so it's a female horse about 14 years old. And like the one of the first like 10 times we interacted with what I interacted with the horse, like I used to have a dog. It was like a half wolf, half Australian Shepherd. So really crazy energy. And we were on this ride, or we were on this walk, and I let my dog off the leash, and he was going crazy. And I was like, the horse was right there too. So Boone, her horse, was just freaking out. I was trying to get my dog on the leash again. And at one point I was like, Stacy, you try and get my dog Odin and I'll hold Boone. So I was holding Stacy's horse, and like a second later, she had kicked me in the chest, and like I was flying, and I didn't even know what happened because, and she had said like, she is so heightened. Do not like, you have to pay attention. And
Richard,
I
you
didn't,
could have been a
yeah,
documentary on 2020 right now, and I wouldn't be
exactly.
talking with you.
I know. But you know what? The kick was so, if you've, that's the first time I've been kicked by a horse, but it was like a soft, just get away from me. It wasn't like I'm gonna stomp your chest and kick. So that was good for me because I probably could have died for sure.
Yeah, no, that's no joke. And staying with horses, you've done something that I always commend, which I very rarely do, the corporations where you had a collaboration with the Kentucky Derby and the bourbon,
Yeah.
and they commissioned you to do what? I think it's phenomenal that they actually
Yeah.
hire
So
artists to do things like this.
I didn't really know that things exist this existed either. So Woodford Reserve is the official sponsor of the Kentucky Derby and has been for many years. And they each year they hire an artist to paint the label of their commemorative Kentucky Derby bottle. So in 2020, COVID year, I was commissioned in November of or June of 2019. So kind of COVID hadn't happened yet. I was all this build up, all this excitement, like in February, March, and then so like nothing happened. Like there was the Kentucky Derby was raced, but there was no fans in the stadium. So it was kind of, but it was also special because my 2020 bottle is like a really kind of a commemorative year. So it's a special year. But yes, I was so, it was such a great time working with Woodford Reserve. And, whenever you work with a corporate client, it's always like kind of a collaboration, a back and forth. And that was really special. I really enjoyed kind of being brought into a team and working together like that.
Yeah, I love when people at these big corporations with a lot of money actually pour money into the actual artist versus hiring a Don Draper type machine of just make
Right.
something for us. And I know that the Texas Rangers have done that with some artists in the Arlington area, and also the Atlanta Braves, because you have also done some work with the Braves, who we'll talk in a bit about when you used to play with them.
Yeah, the Braves project was kind of my big kind of just I wanted to say like make it or break it type moment where it allowed me to expand my work, kind of get my work seen. And I painted 20 paintings for their original paintings for their new stadium, Truist Park. And that was a really great, kind of full circle moment for me because I had obviously played with them in the minor leagues and I didn't know really what I was going to do after baseball. I knew I needed to go back to school. I knew I wanted to create art in some way, but I didn't really know what direction I was going to take until I just had like what they had announced this new stadium was being built kind of when I was graduating, and I was like, well, that's what I'm going to focus on, and it gave me a really clear direction to work towards for the first 2 or 3 years of my career.
You basically have lived the dream of so many kids across the country, where you grew up rooting for a team, whatever that may be, ice hockey, whatever, in this case, baseball, and you actually ended up playing with that organization. It's when you were drafted by the Atlanta Braves coming out of college. What did that feel like? Because
Uh,
you grew up rooting for the Braves as well, right?
yeah, it was surreal. I would say it was one of the most stressful moments of my life because during that time the draft was 2 days long. I don't know. I think it's just one day now.
Yeah, it used to
But
be like 40 rounds, and now I think it's like
right.
20 or 11 rounds, something. They've cut it
Yeah, they
drastically.
used to do rounds 1 through 10 the first day. And the scout who I was talking to with the Braves was like, we're going to pick you in this round, and it didn't happen. It was like the seventh round. I was like, what's going on? Like I was freaking out that first day. I didn't sleep that night. And then they, ended up picking me in the 11th round the next day. And oh my, it was just like a flood of relief, just joy, pure, just happiness, and just really relieved too, because it was something I had been working so hard to like for this culmination for so long. And I didn't really truly believe that it was going to happen. So when it did, it was just kind of like a mind blowing moment, I guess.
you were drafted out of college. And what I love
Mhm.
about your story is it's a very tried and true baseball story where a young man's very good, a lefty, by the way, which I'm a big fan of because I'm a lefty as well.
Oh, cool.
Very good, goes to college at an art school, and then goes to baseball. I'm
Yeah,
joking, of course. You
that,
graduated from. I'll let you tell the story where you went to school and you're and being an athlete at that school.
right. Well, that it is an interesting story that I found the only art school in the country that had a collegiate sports program. So the Savannah College of Art and Design, SCAD, for short, they back in the day when in 2006 they had like a full program. They had every sport except football, and it was fully funded. You could get scholarships. It was NAIA, and I had gone to a a pre or a like a high school workout when in college workout as a sophomore, and they were there. I think I put like graphic design on the what do you want your major to be, and I didn't really know. I was like, yeah, I didn't know really what I like. I knew I'd like to draw. I was always in art class, but I didn't really know what I was doing either. So, and I performed well at that combine, and they flew me down to Savannah, and I think I struck out like 9 of 10 of their hitters that were in their lineup, and I think I just really impressed them, and I just felt this. It was the first time in my life where I was like, yeah, I'm good, I can do this, and that's not true. I felt like it was the first time in a long time because high school it just felt like a struggle, and my self confidence wasn't the greatest. But yeah, I think SCAD changed my life. It saved my life. It really allowed me to combine both of my passions. It allowed me to meet all these artist athletes that were in the same, doing the same thing, and really just opened my mind to like I felt so different in high school. I felt like such an outsider because I was an artist, and then I played baseball, but I didn't really talk about either of them in the environment. So I kind of felt like I was didn't really belong to either one of those. So at SCAD, I was just like, oh, these are my people. So that was really special.
It's amazing. I think I've been to Savannah once or twice, and I love the town, but I'm always a little leery because of all the what is it? I guess the ghosts in
Oh,
Savannah.
yeah.
And apparently I think I read or heard somewhere that like every 3 or 10 feet there's a dead body buried underneath.
Okay.
I'm like,
Yeah,
I
there's a lot of the Civil War happened there. There was a lot of malaria or some type of disease that's like just wiped out, and they were dumping bodies everywhere.
Roman fever, as they would say in
Right.
Victorian England.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that part of Savannah. Like it was felt like, you could walk anywhere. So I don't, for your guests that haven't been, it just feels like a medieval kind of medieval European city that hasn't changed in 100 years. And I haven't been there in about 6 or 7 years, so that might not be true now. I might have, but like their downtown area, it just feels like you can explore and there's a lot to do. And the go like it feels very populated, even though it's not. And
Yeah,
I
it's
I
actually
loved
I
it
found it
there.
a small town almost. I
It
didn't find it
is,
that
yeah.
big because within a
It
five blocks, you're just like in a very residential area heading west from away from the water or north. I forget where.
yeah, it's a very small circumference. So
I've always I love all levels of baseball, whether it's college, all the minor league systems, and obviously major league, and also international, like the World Baseball Classic and the Caribbean Series. This year, I have gone all in college baseball. It is as another guest I had talked with. It said it's chaos. College baseball is chaos. That being said, I know that in college and in all the big sports, I think the athletic department tries to help the student athlete with providing tutors, extra stuff because there's so much time that's asked of you as a student as a student athlete. How in the world does a tutor help an artist athlete,
uh,
because you're not studying for like an English
yeah,
course or
right.
geometry. Like, did you guys
Can't
have tutors? And if it's so,
no.
like, how did that work when you had to do schoolwork and practice on like a pickoff move to first base?
Yeah, we did not have tutors. We were doing art projects on the bus ride home from our 3-day weekend, conference game. So,
Like, don't sit on my paper mache project over there.
I mean, kind of like it was a nightmare, honestly. Like as an artist, you have to have time to create. It's not like you can cram for a test or you can just make it good in a second. So I struggled. I was really focused on baseball, so I would probably, my professors probably were like, "What are you doing? Like, what didn't you like have any time left to do this?" So, like my friends that were in architecture, they were pulling all-nighters every night of the week, and that doesn't help an athlete when there's no sleep. So, I would say, looking back on it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It really doesn't. But it allowed a lot of people to kind of experience these two things that they loved, and I was very fortunate to go back to school my senior year and without baseball. So I got to focus one more year of school. And that also gave me so much confidence as an artist, because I think the first 3 years I was like, yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do as an artist. Like I really don't, like I'm not developing the way I thought I would, but I was developing in baseball. So I don't know. It was just this weird time in life where you just worked so hard and you made it work, and things, you just woke up the next day and you're like, what do I need to do today? So that's kind of how college was.
You're making me think of the film Varsity Blues that came out like in 1998 or 1999 about the Texas high school football team. And I remember there was one scene where one of the not professors, but one of the teachers gave one of the, I don't know, the quarterback or wide receiver, somebody like a B or A because, they have a good arm or whatever. I don't think that was happening at the Savannah College of Art and Design.
No, it wasn't.
It's like, I love your
No,
pickoff move, Richard. Here's an A. Don't
no,
worry
they
about
didn't
that
even,
project.
most of our professors did not know we had a sports team. So, and no, they didn't. I think I had like a 3.1 or 2.8 my junior year, and you have to have a 3.0 to graduate. So going back to school, I had to like really focus, and I got a straight A's, and I was like, yeah, I can do this. This is easy when there's no baseball, because like as is for all those student athletes out there, when you don't have a sport and you do college, it's easy. You can like spend you have plenty of time to study and all that stuff. So yeah, it's being an athlete in college is like having a full-time job on top of a full-time job. It's not, and that's why they have all those tutors. That's why they have so much support at the D1 level, because it's like, D1 collegiate sports now is like a professional level of sport. There's so much that goes into it.
Again, you were in the Atlanta Braves minor league system for many years. When you were actually, again, I'm sure you were super focused on becoming better, getting promoted to the next level, etc. Was that artistic itch ever scratched? What did you put in the back of your mind? Was it completely dormant? Where was that when you were a professional baseball player?
I would say not. It was 90% dormant, and then I had a sketchbook. So like on our bus rides, I would
You would throw paper
it out.
airplanes, and that would be your artistic outlet.
I would just sketch for a second and kind of be like, oh, this is cool, but I don't really. So I just, baseball took so much energy, and like by the time you got home or you were done with a game, you just were spent. You didn't want to do anything. And I played a lot of video games at that point just because I needed some point to unwind. I didn't drink. I didn't, I was pretty straight laced, but the video games kind of were like the addiction where I could just kind of zone out for a second. But I will say, like at the end of my career, I went to Michael's, which is an art store, and bought some watercolor paints. I bought paper. My intuition was like, you need to start creating again. And that was like 5 years after I had gotten drafted. And that really allowed me, and I would be painting at night and during the day. And for that last season, that kind of allowed me to let go of baseball easier, because I was like, oh, I have this other thing that I haven't explored to the fullest. I think it was that loosening of the grip that I needed to let go of baseball, because I could have probably held on to baseball the rest of my life, and that's not what my soul wanted. I think I definitely needed to explore the art thing, as scary as that was at the time.
I still have a credit I need to use at Michael's, and what I want to do is create candles. I've
Okay,
gone crazy for candles. Don't I spend way
that's
too much
awesome.
money on.
Do you make the candle wax and everything?
No, no, I have. That's the thing is like I have the supplies. I haven't done it yet.
Okay.
And so you have the wax supply. You got the not that those.
The
I was
wick,
going to say the necessary essence, the herbal not herbal essence. That's
yeah,
the
like the
shampoo.
scent or like whatever is like their whatever it smells like.
Whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That type
yeah.
of stuff. But I haven't done it. And
Okay,
again, I also need to use the credit at Michael's to go buy other stuff as well. So
okay.
you're
Yeah, I
inspiring
hope you
me.
do that. I mean, we all need a creative outlet for sure.
You made me think that you had mentioned something about when you were playing professional baseball, you didn't drink, but obviously with when you did that partnership with Woodford Reserve, do you have any of the bottles left? Did they give them to you? Do you take a sip like once a year when you watch the Kentucky Derby, which is coming up in oh no, the Preakness just happened I think last week, but
Yeah.
do you do anything to commemorate that with the Woodford Reserve bottle?
Yeah, I think I have 6 or 7 left, and I've drank a few of them. I drink now. I love bourbon. I love, beer. So it was just one of those things during my 20s where I thought I had to be a certain way to get, I just didn't let myself do that until after baseball. So yeah, I
That's very Tom
bourbon
Brady
is,
of you.
yeah, I guess
Because
so.
he would drink like one beer in the off season and he'd be back in like training mode.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I guess like it was pretty hardcore back then. I was like pretty serious, and I don't know why. I if I had taken it a little less serious, maybe I would have like had more fun. But yeah, bourbon is king in Kentucky, so we love our bourbon here. I haven't opened a Woodford Reserve bottle in many years. They're on my shelf in my kitchen. Maybe in 20 years I'll open another one. I don't know. But now I have so few of them. I'm just like, yeah, I can drink some other bourbon. I don't need to open that one.
That's special. That's amazing. Again, I love that, and I love that the Braves have commissioned you, and you've done work with Major League Baseball as well with your art, and it's inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you.
What I want to ask you is something I ask all my guests I'm gonna have to take you out of your studio space in Louisville because you have a new job back. It's almost like what is it like the Godfather movies? It's like they made an offer I can't refuse. We're gonna crown you as the new Major League Baseball commissioner. And with these new powers, what's one or two things you would change about the game or anything? Again, this is fantasy, so you can say we're only playing at 8 a.m. every game, but you can do whatever you want. What's one or two things Commissioner Sullivan
Oh my
does?
gosh. Well, I'll do it like this. I'll do one serious thing that I think the game should improve. Like we have to figure out a way for all these pitchers to stop getting Tommy John. Like we need like the game has ramped up so much the last few years, and like every pitcher is throwing their hardest every time they need like all the stats, all the velocity or the spin rates and all that stuff. We have all that stuff, so they're every time they pitch, it's like they need to be perfect, and that's creating. I think I've read a few things about like the pitch clock too, and that's kind of messing. So, but I don't know. I just feel like if I were commissioner, there's got to be some way to like figure out how to allow the game to right itself in a way, and not like I just feel like it's speeding up and speeding up and speeding up, and it's not, and maybe it's just not going to change anymore, or not. It's not going to go back the way it was because that's a tricky question that I would probably want to answer. But then my one quirky thought was like, you've heard of the Savannah Bananas and how huge it is. It would kind of be fun to like one day a year to just to see all the teams play that way and just kind of like because baseball back when I played, it's so serious. People, there's so much history, so much tradition, so much, so many routines, and like you just it's just so serious and so
Yeah, I
and
always
that's
think
yeah.
yeah, I always think baseball historians are the ones that hate contemporary baseball the most. You because
Yeah.
people are always like they're always looking backwards and they're like walking backwards and looking backwards. It's like baseball's
Mhm.
changed.
Right.
Baseball's changed. It's not going back to the
No.
1970s to the
Yeah.
1950s.
Pandora's box is kind of open. And I think the stats and the spin rate, all the data we have now is that Pandora's box of the new generation because, I think kids, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure if you're a 10-year-old growing up now, you're paying attention to what your spin rate is. And back in the day, like who cares? Just have fun, Like it doesn't matter. It really just
Yeah, get the guy
so
out, or if you're a batter, just get the hit.
right and like enjoy it. So I think maybe all that the damage to people's arms is because of the what they do before they get to the big leagues too. So yeah, I think sports in general have like obviously there's a lot of industries around like there's the at every
Like
level there's
perfect game for the high
yeah,
schoolers and all this showcases that cost a gazillion dollars to be part
right.
of.
Yeah, and I think that wasn't like that to the same degree when I was playing. Like I was on AAU baseball and we traveled every weekend, but it was like fun it was kind of like the best time I ever had playing baseball because it was with my friends and you just didn't have it was like a summer like Sandlot, kind of like that, not a lot of pressure, but now I think there's just so much money involved and so much there's just a lot's changed in the sports world, I think. And I don't know if that's ever gonna I think we're gonna continue to see how that affects the next generation of athletes. I really don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, we have to protect the pitchers because without the pitchers, we can't play baseball.
Right. Yeah. And I get it. Like every players are getting paid so much money these days and they want to get that contract. And I think it's about protecting I get it. You want to create that support for your family and for yourself for many years. And you're gonna go full flow for as long as you need to. I think like back when John Smoltz and Tom Glavine and Greg Maddux, like in the 90s, there was just like they didn't throw their hardest all the time. They conserved. They were like the game was played completely different. So you can't even compare it.
Yeah, that's like 35 years ago, as crazy
I
as that sounds.
oh my God, that's insane. That's crazy. Yeah.
All right, let's not think
So
about those
yeah.
things. We can't, Richard, better than almost anyone. We can't perform on an empty stomach, whether it's throwing a baseball, hitting a baseball, or creating amazing art. If we were in Louisville, because I know there's a minor league team there, but I don't remember off the top of my head. If
The
we're in
bats.
the
Bats.
Bats, if we're in Louisville, what's some of your go-to places for a drink, coffee, food? When we are in Louisville.
Yeah, when you come, so there's this cool place called New Lou. It's like an area in Louisville that's been developed the last 10 years, and there's a bunch of breweries, a bunch of restaurants in like a pretty much like 2 block radius. So there's this really good Cuban restaurant that is amazing, and they play live music all the time. And then my girlfriend and I like to go to this brewery and play cards. It's called West Six Brewery. They're based in Lexington, but they have a spot here in Louisville. Royals Hot Chicken. It's like the perfect meal if you're like needing a cheap date or a cheap place to go. Yeah, I think Louisville is honestly one of the most underrated food cities in the country, honestly. Like, especially pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we were like top foodie city in one of them in the country. So I think it's bounced back a little bit, but 21C, there's a bar at 21C Hotel called Proof. That's a really cool place to go. Zombie Taco is a cool place. I don't know. I can name that's just in that area.
That's all
So
we need. That's all we need.
yeah. Yeah, Louisville's cool. It's like all these different different neighborhoods. So each neighborhood has their own vibe, and they're pretty close together. So
I love it. I can't wait. And
mhm.
finally, Richard, of course, let us know where we can find you on social media and also your work that you're producing and have produced.
Yes, my website is richardsullivanart.com, and you can pretty much Google me. Just Google Richard Sullivan Art. My Instagram handle is Richard Sullivan Art. Yeah, just you can find me. I've got like, it's crazy, Dorian. This is the 10th year I've been doing my art business, and it feels like 20 years have gone by, honestly. It feels like a longer, but I'm very lucky to be still creating art and doing what I love, and I hope to continue it. I hope to kind of expand into more sports. I want to start creating smaller watercolors that are quicker and just kind of getting into more sports and more, because what I really love is capturing that, like any athletes, that moment when they're just free of everything. Like when there's no thought, there's just they're intuitively performing, and it's like a flow state. I think every time I paint an athlete, I can kind of get back into that and feel it in a way. So I really do love just painting any athlete, whether it be horses or humans or so yeah. I don't know what's next. I feel like there's a lot of doors that are opening, and I can. That's life though. Like we never really know when we're in the zone where, I guess, if you're work a corporate job, it's pretty clear you can stay pretty centered. But like when you're an entrepreneur or like an artist, like you can create intentions, but you really have to follow the path.
After that conversation with Richard, I hope it inspires you to pick up some arts and craft around the house, around your apartment, and just do work. You don't need to be Picasso to be creative. But having a drink here and there can maybe help the creative process. I don't know. This isn't a scientific show. But as I was getting this episode together, recording it, I had a good adult beverage here in my hands. I have something called Rosette, a rosé ale from a good American brewery called Brewery, Bhavana in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's a light taste. It's a great summer beer, this Rosette. And the interesting thing is that it's a beer, but they age this rosé ale for 9 months, which is not something you usually hear about when you're drinking a beer from a brewery, a craft beer is what I guess they say in the business. And speaking of arts and crafts, speaking about our conversation with Richard, all things art, I want to mention again, if I haven't already in another episode, Raleigh is the Smithsonian of the South. They have loads of galleries, loads of artists, loads of museums. Highly encourage you to go and experience art in Raleigh, North Carolina. Also this weekend, North Carolina State is hosting the College World Series, the Raleigh Regional, at Doak Field. They're playing obviously at Doak Field. North Carolina State is hosting. There's going to be North Carolina State, South Carolina, James Madison, and Bryant. Should be this. That South Carolina and North Carolina State matchup is going to be very good. I'm not going to pretend I know anything about James Madison or Bryant, but good luck to everybody else. And good luck if you're going to the game, because it's going to be hot. Stay hydrated when you're out in your baseball games or even outside. Last thing about the SEC tournament, this was really cool. During the championship game between LSU and Tennessee on Sunday, yesterday, the stadium facilities, whatever they call themselves, they were giving away free bottled waters because it was so freaking hot in Hoover, Alabama, in the stadium, because they didn't want people passing out. So stay hydrated, and a tip of the hat to the facilities coordinator, operator of that, who's like, hey, you know what? Instead of charging people $6, let's give this away for free so they don't die. Cheers to Hoover Stadium. Cheers to you. Thanks for listening to Last Call Baseball. Be great and get home safe.